Today, we're going to get back to our beautiful sanctuary at University Baptist Church in Montevallo. But for the time being, we're going to use technology to the best of our ability and stay connected in whatever way we can. I'm glad that you are here with me today. Today, I'm offering a devotional from a very brief, lightning quick parable in Matthew's Gospel, the 13th chapter, verses 34 and 44. Listen now for the word of God. Jesus told the crowds all these things in parables. Without a parable, he told them nothing. The kingdom of heaven, he said, is like treasure hidden in a field, which someone found and hid. Then, in his joy, he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. May God bless the reading and hearing of this sacred text, the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. A couple of days ago, my not quite 3-year-old Jacob returned from a nature hike with my wife Kathleen over at Moss Rock in Hoover. It was a beautiful day out, sunny skies, blue skies. The birds were out chirping in full force. When they came home, I asked Jacob if they had a good time, and he excitedly told me, "Daddy, the birds were talking to me." "They were talking to you?" I said, and shot Kathleen a curious look. "Mm-hmm," he said. "They were talking to me." "Well, Jacob, what did the birds say to you?" For the first time ever, Jacob shot me that "you're being ridiculous, Dad" look, and he spoke with perfect elocution, "Tweet, tweet, tweet, Daddy." Being quarantined with a toddler is exhausting, truly. But it's got its perks. Every day, Jacob reminds me of one of my favorite poems from E. E. Cummings. I'd rather learn from one bird how to sing than to teach 10,000 stars how not to dance. It's a choice. For those of us now who are stuck at home and in relatively good health, it is a choice to behold the beauty, the meaning, and the miracles, or not to. If anyone ever had a reason not to, it was Julian of Norwich. In 14th century England, she survived not one, not two, but count them, 3 waves of bubonic plague. Literally half the population of her town, Norwich, died because of the disease, including, some scholars have speculated, her husband and children. Julian herself, at 31 years old, nearly died from it. She was so bad off that a priest was called in to administer last rites. On what she thought was her deathbed, she had a series of visions, of showings, as she called them, which, after a miraculous recovery, she wrote about. She actually had to learn how to read and write so that she could write them down herself without mediation from a third party. And today, Revelations of Divine Love is not only a classic, it is the oldest known book written by a woman author in the English language. Her deathbed revelations include all the things that you might expect a saint to envision: a cross, a crown of thorns, the face of Christ. But the vision that's most interesting to me, the one that stoked the imagination of religious folks for several hundred years now, is that of a single hazelnut. This is not a hazelnut. This is a gumball from my sweet gum tree out front. It's the closest thing that I could find in these quarantined times. But Julian doesn't actually say it was a literal hazelnut. She says that it was something so small, something the size of a hazelnut, something so small that it could fit into the palm of her hand. She pictured it in her mind's eye, and she wondered, what is this? And the answer came to her. This is everything that has ever been made. This is all creation. There was a time when I would have dismissed this as general nonsense. There was a time when I would have filed it under S for spiritual mumbo jumbo. But, today I don't really feel that way. Because I think the ability to see God's imprint on all creation, to look at small things with wonder, and to look to the cosmos with awe, today I'm pretty sure that that simple willingness might just be the thing that saves us, the thing that carries us through these long days, somehow both anxious and boring simultaneously. It's also good practice, because if you can behold the glory of God in this simple little thing, then maybe it'll be a little bit easier to behold God's glory in another human being. The Imago Dei is what it's called, that all people are created uniquely in an image of God. This is Christianity 101. It goes all the way back to Genesis chapter 1. It is seminal to our faith, yet somehow we constantly veer away from it. How easy it is for us to demonize others based on arbitrary categories, based on race, based on ethnicity, based on sexual orientation, based on gender identity, based on religious preference or lack thereof, or worst of all, based on politics. The human animal is unique. It is truly set apart, if nothing else, for its ability to classify others into categories of lovable on one hand and unlovable on the other. People who are worth my time and people who are not. That's what makes the life of Jesus Christ so controversial. That is, if we take it seriously. That is, if we read about it in its entirety. Today, just as it was 2,000 years ago, it is hard to follow Jesus, to walk his way. Because, Jesus constantly challenged us to look closer at that stranger, at that foreigner, at that indigent, at that sinner, at that nobody, at that deplorable, at that Republican, at that Democrat. Look closer at that human being. Look them in the eye and see him for who they are. See that perhaps they're your neighbor. More than that, see that they're your kin. They are, in fact, made out of the same stuff as you, flesh and blood and spirit. It's the distance that creates the enmity. It is the distance that creates the enmity. The longer we practice this thing that we're calling social distancing, the more important it will be for us to keep that in mind. The more distant we become from each other, the more important it will become for us to remember that distance creates enmity. You can already witness it if you're paying attention. You can already hear the political spin beginning to swirl all around us. After a brief hiatus in which we were all just looking for new information about the virus, now the finger pointing has begun in full force. And, in an election year, you can rest assured that it's only going to get worse. Now, I don't want you to hear me wrong. I'm all for accountability and I'm all for justice. I just think it's important for us to maintain our humanity and our dignity amid all the anger and chaos and the toxicity endemic not only to this virus, but to our words and our actions. It is the distance that creates the enmity. It's important now more than ever that we stay attuned to the beauty and the miracles and the meaning all around us, like Julian with her little hazelnut, like my Jacob with his birds, like this little lightning bolt of a parable that's so easy for us to pass over in Matthew's gospel. Because, like this man who found treasure in a field and ended up falling in love with the field itself, it will be the search for God in others, the search for God in all of creation that allows you and me to love the world finally as Christ loved it.